So I've been wondering, you got here before me by...
4 weeks.
Yeah. But when I died, you were still alive. So how did you...
Oh, yeah, priority boarding.
Priority... Is that why you got to bring hand luggage?
Yeah.
Okay. You didn't bring a second controller in your luggage, did you?
Oh, yeah! No, I didn't, no.
Okay.
Do you want to watch video game television?
Yeah, that'd be great, okay. Yeah.
Prepare to beef! Beefy Boy Chronicles X. Marvel with over 10 years of bonus digital features. Be the Beef Boy. Defeat the nefarious Dr. Hospital. Save the planet. Destroy the planet. Escape the planet. Save the princess. Be the Beef Boy.
Wow, wasn't that amazing? That was the new advert for Beefy Boy Chronicles X, and we have just got 200 copies. Are you ready to be the sweetest beefster on the planet? Are you ready to send Dr. Hospital straight to the morgue? I am. Let's take a look at what's inside. No one wants their friends to think they're a fake beef boy. That's a scary call to receive at 3 in the morning. But how better to say, I'm not a fake beef boy, than with a limited edition thing that you can buy. Since I was a child, I wished that I could be Beefy Boy. And today, I can! Kevin, what are we looking at here? Well, the corpse was blooded by what appears to be a shovel, and then the victim evaporated, leaving behind this sugary detritus. Just like the rest of them. Filled with fun.
Viva Pinata came out 12 years ago, and since then, I very rarely stopped thinking about it. Too fiddly and nuanced to be played by tiny children, yet too infused with love and rainbows to find a home in the hearts of a generation that just 1 year later, in 2007, would collectively flip an absolute nut for BioShock, Modern Warfare, Halo 3 and Crackdown, a nut that, for many, would never be unflipped. Viva Pinata is strikingly odd, with a supporting cast of mildly terrifying things, a lady with a slightly sinister mask, a woman physically made of gold, and a person with an American postbox for a head. It's immediately an exercise in abstract dissociation. So listen, you've been tasked with transforming a muddy patch of junk into a verdant paradise, and as you grow flowers and fruit and dig lovely little ponds, new creatures appear and decide they want to live in your garden. This is great. I'll give them names, I'll build them a dinky little house, and if the atmosphere is just right, they procreate, making sweet, sweet love in the exact same fashion as sexually active humans. Carefully navigate through a maze of bombs, collecting coins wherever possible. But we're not here to talk about romance and sex. No, no, no. We're here to talk about power and death. Because Viva Pinata is a game that will deceive you. It will hold your hand, patting it gently. You built a nice thing. You made friends with a worm and you called him Barry. Life is wonderful if you only believe in happiness and dreams. But you are living in a world of fantasy. Because while the game slowly, carefully teaches you the ropes, firmly keeps one hand holding back the curtain. So you've got this family of happy worms and a happy mouse, and you've called the mouse Joe, and a snake has come to visit, and you've got some happy little birds, and you've planted some flowers, and sweet Jeffrey, that snake just murdered Joe, and that guy just died as well. Who even killed that guy? This place is awful. Who's in charge here? And who's in charge? You are. Welcome to Behind the Curtain. Of course, the flavour of destruction here is literally saccharine. Each creature fires a flurry of comedically apt objects at the thing that they want to murder, which then falls apart and leaves behind sweeties, which other creatures then devour to make themselves happier? And no, this soft-serve delivery isn't making murder any more palatable once you've given these poor things names. And the terrifying thing here really is pace. After a gentle cruise around the block with stabilizers, off they come. Joe the Mouse is dead. That family of worms will soon be dead. Everything you see now in this garden will die. This is Viva Pinata. Oh, no, this can't happen. No, I'll build fences. I'll pour water on the heads of any creatures that attack my friends. If I need to, then I'll beat these predators to death with the shovel. These creatures can't die. They've got names. I gave them a house. I gave them names. But listen. Shh. Listen. This is what makes Viva Pinata special. Because yes, you can try and act as nature's policeman, looking after the things you like, but this doesn't have the snappy interface of a game like StarCraft. As a god, you couldn't be further from being omnipresent. Things happen just when you aren't looking. New creatures arrive, and they eat the ones you love. And honestly, that's really frustrating. But here's the thing, it's also the only way that the game can progress. Bigger creatures will eat the creatures you love, and then they'll live in your garden, and you'll grow to love them. And then bigger creatures will arrive and eat them. You just need to accept this cycle. You love these creatures, you enjoy their lives, but you also accept that you aren't really their protectors. And from the perspective of a deeply agnostic man, I've always felt that this game might be the ultimate actual God game. Whenever we talk about God games, we think of bean counters, effectively, moving resources around carefully, having ultimate micromanaging control. You do have the ultimate power of control over this world, but do you use it? No. It isn't your place to try and actively control everything. And once you accept it, there's a strange peace in the distant sense of detachment here. The early hours of Viva Pinata are a flurry of mildly stressful moments, incidents of being unable to control the constant chain of events going on around you. But then it clicks, and you accept the cycle. And instead of frantically swooping around trying to micromanage the little details, you zoom back and you take the time to often just watch and just listen to the sounds of your moonlit garden. You plant grass, you water plants, you engineer certain situations where you can, but then largely you just sort of let the rest happen. There's cold versus cuddly and chaos versus control, but this is a video game, so ultimately you're a god that exists purely to unlock new things. Progress upon progress, bigger and bigger things, even if, in the process, many small things must die. And that's Viva Pinata. Filled with fun.
That game had a crocodile in it that was called a crocodile. A crocodile. Yeah.
Oh. What's Coco?
You know, I don't remember. I'm pretty sure it was hot.
Like a radiator?
Maybe it was like a radiator, yeah.
Travel the world, killing people, wearing people's hair. Sometimes I wear gloves, but not these gloves.
The power of beef is quaking in my hands! And it can quake in yours too, for just £299.99. And this replica helmet, it doesn't just look cool. It's not just gonna keep me safe, it's gonna look great on your coffee table or as the centerpiece for your next wedding. Hey, can I use this beef blaster to melt mum? Legally, we do have to tell you that this Beef Blaster isn't functional in the traditional sense, but it does have a really lovely weight to it. So what I like to do, you can just ha, 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 ha. The weight of this cannon is really one of the selling points, I would say. If you people at home need to understand, if you take this off your arm, and you dropped it on something like a small bird, that bird isn't going to be walking away. Even bigger birds.
Hello, yes. Expiry date. It doesn't expire. Yes, I'll hold. Hey, guess what? With the obvious exception of Sonic Dreams Collection, Sonic Mania is the best Sonic the Hedgehog game to come out in decades, because for this game, Sega recruited from the online fan game community that make Sonic games for fun, assembling a team more than capable of reminding you why Sonic was once considered a legitimate competitor to the Mario Brothers, who had his own singularly disturbing ice cream. On display are the zip, the pop, the playful enemy design, and endless catapults, with their seductive promise that if you got really good, you could soar through these levels. Sonic series producer Takashi Iizuka described Sonic Mania as by the mania, for the mania. And while I have no idea what that means, I think it's a step up from Sonic games being made by some dudes for children. You think a 6-year-old's gonna pick up on the humor inherent in this gauche cultural icon? No! They're gonna run around levels having fun, and they're not even gonna do a good job of that! But what I want to talk about today is the mastery with which Sonic Mania uses nostalgia. What if I were to tell you that nostalgia is good for more than publishers regurgitating intellectual properties from your childhood back down your throat like some kind of horrible money bird? That nostalgia is instead a powerful tool at a game maker's disposal and can achieve all kinds of things. One of my favourite examples can be found in Metal Gear Solid 4, the plot of which saw players revisiting the island of Shadow Moses from the original 1998 game in 2008. You even got to try and do the level again, only for MGS4 to drop you back into the present with a dying protagonist, an abandoned base, and quotes from the original game whispered into your ear as if you were being haunted by your own evaporated youth. If you played the first game, it was a profound moment. Oh, would that this sneaking suit could sneak me past my own mortality! Another fun use of nostalgia can be found in the music of Breath of the Wild, whose lead composer worked mostly with a sparse piano sound completely different from previous Zelda games, but would occasionally use refrains from the previous games. These moments were like a respectful nod from the musician to the older members of the audience. While a clumsy reboot or repurposing of a game for commercial reasons might erode your love of the original thing, this was a wonderful light touch from the artist that made me love Zelda more. Back to Sonic Mania, and the way it uses nostalgia is different from both of these things, but no less clever. It starts with Level 1, Green Hill Zone, Act 1, and hang on, you think, I've played this before. I've heard this music before. This is literally level 1 from Sonic 1, but it can't be, because I heard Sonic Mania was a new game. Yes, no. What's happening? You're not sure what's happening. But before you've figured it out, you're onto Green Hill Zone Act 2, and the music changes to something jazzier, and the enemies have changed, and it is Green Hill, but it isn't? The entire game is like this. It's a playful tug of war between the Sonic you remember, you definitely did remember this bit for sure, and new levels, new music, new enemies that fit Sonic like one of his weird bloody gloves, often going back and forth in the same level. The entire game doesn't just use your nostalgia, it plays it like a musical instrument. It's like the game inserts a straw into your ear and blows dust off the shelves of your brain, swooshing it around in new, unexpected patterns. If I had 15 words to describe Sonic Mania, they would be like having a seance with a dead parent and they're nice to you. In one memorable moment, it even introduces an original Sonic level that I hated, only to collapse the building around me. Or maybe best of all, in a kind of quiet acknowledgement that the original Sonic bosses were all a bit naff, Dr. Robotnik drops little versions of them as capsule toys, and What's this feeling in your chest as you fight this boss? What's this condition you're in? What's wrong with me, Doctor?
Well, it appears you've developed a rather severe case of sonic mania. Symptoms include having to go fast and gastroenteritis. Yes, I'm afraid you will have to develop some brain control.
There's more to Sonic Mania though than this playfulness, because actually, nostalgia is a thorny thing. Most of us have this sentimental longing to return to our childhood, but take it from someone who just rebought Farscape on DVD. The stuff we loved as children is often way worse than we remember. So in addition to having fun alternating between old Sonic and new in a way that makes Sonic Mania play like a hallucination, the truth is that Sonic Mania is only pretending to deliver old Sonic. As part of writing this review, I went back and played the actual Green Hill Zone Act 1 from 1991 and found that Sonic Mania is secretly presenting a version of that level with more playful design, better pacing, and better music that nonetheless tricks us into thinking it's the real thing. Which makes sense, because seriously, nobody wants to listen to the Sega Genesis sound chip. Hey Quinns, why you got it out for the Sega Genesis? Oh, I don't know, maybe it was because my childhood sounded like this. But just listen to this bit of music from the Sonic Mania soundtrack. Have you ever heard anything so unburdened by technology or free from the pain of existence?
Oh, it's nice.
It's fun, isn't it?
There isn't a lot of music on video games television, is there?
No, but there's video games radio.
Video games radio?
Yeah. I mean, you know, plays all the hits.
Oh, wow. Just...
I don't want to watch a hedgehog drowning. I just want to see a fox getting crushed.
Actually, there was something on video games television I wanted to watch.
Yeah, fine.
There are tiny speakers inside the helmet. When you press this button, you hear 12 fully licensed Beefy Boy sound effects.
Get beefed. Oh, beef! I'm gonna make a mince beef out of you. There's no way I'm leaving here without my wife. Beef!
It's here!
Beefing on ice.
Now let me tell you the funny story of how Final Fantasy XII's re-jazzed re-release caused me to doubt myself, my hobby, and my life. That's right, while you were ogling a rabbit in a thong, I was having a midlife crisis. On a swap. If you're someone who plays loads of video games, then every now and then you play a game that breaks games. Something so fresh and so exciting as to render everything else just directionless and muddy and not really feeling it. For a lot of people, that was Dark Souls. Other games just don't have the bite, they don't have the tone, they don't have a big crow. That's the problem with these revelatory games. When a studio approaches their games with a unique attitude, we the players are often unable to unpick the end result to work out why something is better. But the desire for explanation is real, and so we scratch out thousands of articles and videos and a communal hunt for a definitive reason as to how this thing changed our perspective. Millions of strangers haunted by a collective puzzle. Perhaps sometimes we just need to admit that video games are enigmatic artworks that don't make any more sense when you carefully deconstruct them into tiny parts. So whether we're talking about Dark Souls or Super Mario 64 or Q*bert, perhaps the only answer is you had to be there. Although maybe with Q*bert you had to be there and on drugs. Or the heart of some games manage to evade explanation. I'm thankful that most of them are affecting in fairly obvious ways, something that's as easy to decipher as a phoned-in stress dream. It's weird. I'm worried about work tomorrow and I had a dream I was back at school doing an exam, and I hadn't prepared for it. I mean, honestly, what could that mean? And then you've got games like the remaster of Final Fantasy XII, where for the re-release they tried to fix the fact that it was maybe too bloody big and too bloody long. And in doing so, they opened the design equivalent of the Ark of the Covenant, and I started to melt like a flipping wax Nazi. You see, the whole mechanical premise of the game was way ahead of its time. You can pause the game to give specific instructions to characters, so far, so Final Fantasy, but the nubbin that would truly tickle your mind was the ability to pre-code your party's behavior. So if you're about to die, you should drink a potion. This guy's weak against ice, introduce him to a snowman. So you're basically the coach of a team of sword-wielding athletes, and it's brilliant. You're tweaking bits here and there until you design the perfect algorithm, at which point you can just sit back and watch your squad win and win. But for a game that frequently you sort of just watched, at times it could feel incredibly slow, to the point at which when the original game came out, a popular strategy was to attach a rubber band to the controller thumbstick and literally just wander off to do something else with your life. But not anymore, because in keeping with the sensibilities of the current breakneck media climate, the remastered version of the game lets you speed the game up by 2 times or even 4 times as fast. But after about a week of playing a game like this, in what appears to be a feverish amphetamine dream, everything else I tried to play just felt painfully sluggish, as if I was plodding around with mild concussion and pockets full of syrup. I mean, how do games have the gall to waste so much of my time? Because surely this was what games should aspire to be like. Respectful of my time to the point where they waste only a fraction of it. But if those extra 50 hours in Final Fantasy XII would have been time wasted, then surely that applies to all of it? And if I'm so keen to accelerate the process of getting through a thing to save myself time, isn't the whole thing effectively pointless? Well, oh dear. While you've been gripped by the thrill of being able to change the pace of the experience, what damage are you doing to the illusion? Not just the illusion of this game, but of games. Because if I'm racing through and delighting at that, then what am I actually playing it for? Am I trying to finish the game? Is that the cherry on the cake at the end of the tunnel? Would you watch a Netflix show at quadruple speed just so you could tell other people that you'd seen it? Probably not, no. And yet, the objective-based structure of games often lets them feel strangely like tasks. Listen, I hacked my copy of Sunless Sea to make my boat travel quite a bit faster. For the love of soul, I've played this game for ages and I just want to read some of the new reedy bits, but once I tweaked my speed a bit, it was never enough. As soon as I recognised my ability to escalate the pace of the thing, I questioned how fast I'd like that pace to be, which led me sharply to the question, how much do I actually care about the dread and the loneliness that this game's seafaring sections were trying to whip up? And in my case, I realised maybe not at all. Maybe after countless hours of chumbling back and forth through these melancholic shores, I actually just want to read the stories on these islands, at which point, maybe just go and read a bloody book. But in the same way that the innovation of skippable cutscenes forever changed the relationship between games and those playing them, it feels like giving players the keys to a game's speed is in some cases opening a Pandora's box. But it doesn't need to be. Bravely Default on the 3DS is an excellent game in the same vein as Final Fantasy, but one that allows you to change the speed and frequency of the game's battles whenever you want. But rather than breaking the game, it's just a feature. The game has a set difficulty curve of challenges to overcome and lets you choose how and when you want to prepare for them. But this relationship with games and the feeling that they're wasting our time sometimes is strangely fascinating to me. Within the genre of game design that Final Fantasy XII spawned from, the assurance that swathes of your time will be destroyed by this thing you're buying is perversely a real part of the appeal. There's a masochistic pride in having persevered with the required repetition to finish these things, a medal of honor in the long war against clocks. This work-like process is now found in most games, and when you cross-reference this sensation I got from Final Fantasy XII with the overall current landscape of gaming, it's fascinating to see how a change of pace can absolutely shatter this illusion of worthy work. But then I guess we've all known this for a long time. After you enter a cheat code in a game like GTA, the game is never the same. Violation pops a bubble of warmth and magic that you never really knew was there in the first place, but once it's gone, the relationship can never really be quite the same. And a relationship is what we're talking about here, a relationship between the player and a game. But it isn't a balanced relationship, and it often isn't a healthy one. We need rules, we want structure, but we also often really enjoy complaining about both. It's the boss that you hate, but the one you also choose to hire. Too much work in video games is unacceptable, cruel, but not enough work is even worse. It denies us the pretense that any of this matters, and forces us to examine our hobby and ourselves with disquieting results. So next time you feel like a game is wasting your time, I guess be careful what kind of mechanical game changes you wish for, lest they rip down the velvet curtain before your eyes, revealing the wizard to be a tiny man who perhaps needs to find a better use for his time than crunching through a string of video games that he knows damn well will be aesthetically flashy, miserly, and bloated, eyeing up a glazed buffet that we know will never truly dent. Even with quadruple speed, I still didn't finish Final Fantasy XII. It's just another handful of tiny sausage rolls abandoned on a paper plate, a pile of shame turning slowly stale. It's said that one of the greatest fantasies that video games provide us with is the idea that we'll ever have the free time to play them. But maybe finding the time itself isn't the whole issue. Maybe it's also the optimistic belief that this time the fun won't increasingly fade. Hype and novelty will glide and soar, carrying us through countless hours of consistent joy. But honestly, how can we fairly expect something as fragile as novelty to give us anything more than momentary glee?
Oh, it's, yeah, really happy for you. You're loving it, aren't you?
Yeah.
Great.
I'm actually getting a bit bored of it now.
Getting bored?
Yeah.
Do you want to put it with the rest of your limited edition video game stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.